the departure of Girard-Perregaux and Ulysse Nardin from the Kering group. And this is still a relatively recent thing. The dude who is now the co-founder and the CEO of the Sowind Group, so the folks essentially that are the independent group that now owns UN and GP, the gentleman behind it is a guy named Patrick Pruneau, organizes a management buyout from the Kering group only a few years ago in 2022. And we see some really, really, really good signs coming out of the brands. So if we look, for example, at UN, it's a brand I really love, not only have we seen continued innovation in the UN diver line, we're also seeing
you love those watches.
I do like those watches. We've seen also a very significant resurgence in excitement around the Freak, as well as great product development in the Freak, which has brought the average price point down and increased demand for that line, such that the Freak is the dominant watch that people now associate with UN. Whereas, if I'm being frank, I think if you roll the clock back a decade, it's probably like the marine chronometers.
100%.
And now, like, they've really, and those.
I used to think of UN as synonymous with those like beautiful, but more conventional enamel dial.
The marine
watches.
torpedo.
Yes, exactly.
And those are cool watches. Don't get me wrong. And
now
there's also
UN's got an indie vibe to it.
Well, to a certain degree, they've kind of always done. Yeah. I mean, the thing that people don't realize too about UN is like there's a lot of actually really interesting. Engineering that goes into their watches, like those movements that you find, like in-house movements that you do find in those, the $8,000 and up marine chronometers, et cetera. And the more expensive divers, for example, demonstrate some really impressive in-house watchmaking. Now, UN and GP share a watchmaking facility. And GP, if we pivot over there, I mean, not only have they been focused on haute horology for decades upon decades upon decades, Lord knows, they've really been delivering on that of late.
Well, it sort of slipped late in the Kering Group era. So one of the criticisms about, let's just take the Laureato. This is a GP watch that most people are familiar with. One of the challenges with the Laureato is people found that they were basically like reusing old movements, and not reusing, but like putting old movements into the Laureato. And part of the reason why the Laureato for so long shipped with a closed case back was because the movement didn't fit the watch. The movement was like microscopic within this 42 millimeter stainless steel sports watch.
Well, there was also, if I'm being frank, there was this feeling that it was kind of just like biting off the AP Royal Oak and
but let's say that let's put that to the side because I think everyone has a right to make an integrated bracelet sports watch. And let's say
with an octagonal bezel.
Let's also say, like, look, GP has some additional legitimacy because the Laureato is based on a watch that first came out in the 1970s.
It preceded the Royal Oak, actually.
So I
believe it did.
It didn't precede the Royal Oak, but it did precede, I think, the Overseas, or it came out in the late 70s. We'll have to double check.
Well, we should double check the timeline. But the point is, like,
they all have bona fides in this segment.
Bona fides?
I don't know, man.
Bona fides.
They have bona fides.
Bona fides with the Bodega brand.
Bona fides.
The Bodega bona fides. They have bona fides in this category. Let's just give them that. And so I think one of the criticisms is, when you're comparing the watch to a Royal Oak or to a Nautilus or whatever it might be, those watches have beautiful movements, extremely well finished, well done. You look through the case back, they're a joy to look at. Look at the Chapek Antarctique. You look at the case back of a Chapek Antarctique, and it's like, holy smokes. You look at the case back of a Laureato in the past, and you either couldn't look at it, or in the watches where they did show you the case back, it was, the movement was tiny. It was well finished, well made. But the point here is they weren't able to invest under Kering. They just weren't investing in product development and in research and pushing their products fundamentally forward. It was like Taco Bell. They're taking the components they kind of already had and repurposing them into different products versus doing things that were new. Now, we went to the GP boutique in Geneva over the summer, and we looked at one of the new Laureato products. I think they're in this transition phase where they're phasing in newer product, and they still have some of the older product. But we saw Laureato with an updated movement that was beautifully finished. New case size, refined proportions. And it was the most promising thing to me about that wasn't just like, oh, this watch looks great and it's well made. It's like, Here we go. GP is investing in product development,
Oh.
again, in a way that they sort of weren't. It's not the Taco Bell, let's take the same 5 ingredients and remix them. It was, no, we're going to do this the right way, and we're going to develop.
If I'm being honest, I think that's been happening well before the acquisition. I'm sure the acquisition has supercharged it through necessity as well as access, direct access and more streamlined decision making. But it's not just that. I mean, they're also really trying to take what they're known for on the super high ends, like the 3 bridges, for example, and they're actually putting that into different formats. 100%. So now we have the Girard-Perregaux Laureato 3 gold bridges.
Doesn't that look cool?
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah. Now, and that is a $175,000 steel watch. Wow. Now, there's obviously some white gold in there, but what you're paying for is the watchmaking. And we actually had a really beautiful Hotorology piece come through on a trade.
Oh, we did.
Just a couple of weeks ago.
Incredibly impressive.
Yeah. So my point is, like, look, GP, it's got the right distribution, largely speaking. They've done a ton of work to overhaul the brand.
And the product.
And they've done a ton of work on the product. I think GP is on a 5 to 10 year trajectory to really reclaim and build on its former credibility, to build themselves back up to something great. Now, UN's a little bit more avant-garde. And I think that's going to be I think you can find product market fit for GP faster in the United States than you can find product market fit for UN in the United States, because GP has a broader appeal. Like a
the
Laureato
watches are more straightforward and 100%. Easy to understand.
UN is a little bit more gonzo. And even when you look at the Freak is still kind of like by definition, a wild watch.
And they're leaning into that. They're not 100%. Going back to the marine chronometer style stuff.
Which begs the question, when you think distribution, if the distribution channels for GP are X, today you really tend to see GP and UN go hand in hand. Well, and it makes me wonder if really splitting that off makes more sense. And I think we see some of that, right? Like we saw a UN shop and shop open in Steven Silver.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Cool. So we're starting. So, and I would argue, to me, that makes a lot of sense. Like that in the Bay Area is a great target. That seems like the right, channel for that.
He's built a palace for independent watchmaking, and this fits.
But it's also where what it's surrounded by, right? Like if you're
exactly.
I mean, and this is exemplified by their partnerships, right? I mean, we just had the Freak launch. They carry Urwerk as well.
You can go see a Ulysse Nardin and an MBNF and an Urwerk in an afternoon.
Yeah, but all 3 of those, I think, overlap over a certain narrow band of
which GP doesn't.
Correct.
Yeah.
Even though GP could touch there, maybe someone would be interested, but GP probably will do better in a more mainstream
outlet. I think let's take a step back here. Do we know how this change in direction is working for these brands commercially? Now, it's a private company. They're not reporting numbers or anything like that. But do we get a sense of how it's performing? Okay, this is my question. How do we think it's going?
Freak is driving a ton of success for UN.
It certainly has a level of attention among collectors in the last 2 years that it hadn't had before.
Yeah. And I think GP had this this intense moment in 2021 to 2022 where the Laureato became unobtainium, and it kind of exploded. But when the tide came back on that,
thanks to the Timepiece gentleman for that. I love how that guy took credit for popularizing the Laureato. It's wasn't there some Woody Allen movie like Broadway Danny Rose where some character claimed to have popularized shrimp?
Yeah. He invented the piano key necktie.
I invented it!
When you look at GP, when the tide came back out, a couple of pieces were left standing, like the Laureato skeleton, for example, which I still maintain I think is a finer watch than what is available from AP in the similar format. And I do think that really reminded people
of rose gold.
Oh, and
the Laureato skeleton. Oh,
it's amazing.
God. Yeah. And what watches?
Anyway, but before we go off on what references we like, my point is, I think that what they gained from that minor explosion there, even though there was a pullback after it, was a boost in awareness and credibility. Which is to say, prior to that period of time,
GP entered the conversation in a way they hadn't for 10, 20 years almost.
Yeah. So I think people are open to GP in a way.
GP has entered the chat.
Yeah, in a way that I don't know that they were before. So but no matter how you cut it, whatever time frame or horizon you want to put on it, it is clear that under Patrick Pernod, that brand is going to work. It's going to Avis it, right? They're going to try harder,
Mm-hmm.
and they're going to do everything they can to not just attract the attention of collectors, but also earn their continued respect and ultimately their cash. And it's being built on a strong foundation of good distribution, good product, and good brand development. And when we go back to the things that didn't work and we look at like an Ebel or we look to a degree at Zodiac, et cetera, it's like those things weren't there.